Well, I've been reviewing my notes for this DVD video guide for Artistic Premium, and I realized, wow, there really is a lot of new stuff that comes as part of the upgrade for Artistic Premium. And I've already recorded some really great videos showing some of the sort of really exciting new features, but I have a list of other things that I'd like to go over that are also new and part of Artistic Premium. And so I'm going to record this sort of general segment now to cover a bunch of important things that are new in Artistic Premium. And I'd like to remind you, of course, that there's the DVD video guide that was originally created for Artistic Sewing Suite. And on that video guide, I had already reviewed and sort of taught about all of the functions for the Wings Modular Basic. So we always had Wings Modular Basic, and with the upgrade to Artistic Premium, we received the Digitizing module, the Artistic module, and the Text module, and those are the things that are new. So just to continue along with what's new in Artistic Premium, I'm going to come over onto the workspace, and I'm going to go to the Tools drop-down menu, and here we have an option called Insert Symbol. And so I'll just click on that, and what it does, it gives you a little box that you can use to choose a symbol, and it interacts with your fonts. So basically the list of fonts that comes up are fonts that include some type of a symbol. And so yeah, you can see here, like if I choose the media symbols, we've got things like the DVD symbols or compact disc symbols, little hands and arrows that point. And so there's lots of different, font collections that include symbols. And so yeah, once you are, happy and you've selected a symbol, you click on it and you choose Insert. And now it's the click to set it down and then drag to, set its size and its orientation in terms of sort of the angle of the line. So wherever you're happy with it, you simply click again, and it's been completed, and I can right click to generate the stitches, and it comes up with the Insert Symbol button again, like if you were going to insert more symbols. If you're done inserting symbols, you can simply close it. And so that's the Insert Symbol tool, and it's very similar to, when we would be digitizing a step F5, and we would start to digitize a shape, and then we would type in T to get a character, only this gives us all of the font styles, not just the ones that have symbols, but we could still, of course, come through and, choose one of those ones like Wingdings or Webdings, I think, which was what I was just looking at here. Webdings and Wingdings. And when you have these ones selected, you have to actually type in, which symbol you want to create, and you click to set it in place. So very similar, but with the Insert Symbol, I guess what's really different here is, again, Tools, Insert Symbol, is I can view all of the symbols and then choose the one that I want. So if you want to go to Wingdings and you want to get one of these little hand symbols, you can choose it and insert it, and now you get the click and drag method to set it down. So very similar, but different in its own respect. So yeah, I want to talk about Insert Symbol, and now just give me a second and I'll reset myself, come up with another general concept that's new in Artistic Premium. So another important feature of Artistic Premium is going to be simply the ability to choose and select your colors. So for example, here I have my color palette, and I can easily select on any one of these objects and change its color by just simply clicking on it. The other thing I can do is, if I click on this little color wheel, it gives me the color management option, and I can use this to customize my color palette. So right now this shows me that I have 40 colors available in my color palette, and I could increase or decrease that number. It shows me the 40 colors that I have in my color palette. It tells me their names, and it tells me whether or not I've used any of them. So I have a white background, I've used red, and I've used sky blue. This on the left gives me, colors that I could choose or add to my color palette. And so you can see that you have a long list. Now, for example, if I decided I didn't want this green in my color palette, but I'd like to have another shade of red, I could scroll through, find a new shade of red, and set that as the color on my palette. And so if I say OK, now you're going to see that color 1 on my palette is red, color 2 on my palette is also red. And so you can easily create your own color palette. Now, looking along this sort of area of my workspace, next to this I have the commands. And most of these we've had before, but what was new for version, I guess, Artistic Premium was the ability to change your entry and your exit points. And so just for an example, this design here, this shows the spider, and then this piece symbol, and then this symbol, and I can see that the trail thread from the spider comes to here and goes to there. If I wanted to change that, I could select this object and come to Move Entry Point, and then I get to click to choose. So if I wanted to start on this side of the hand, I could choose that. And you can see that the trail thread now goes from here to there. So I changed the entry point. And I could change the exit point. If I select the spider and I thought, well, maybe I'd like it to finish over here, I can choose Move Exit Point. And then again, I have to click to select the new exit point. Another thing I could do is I could choose to force a trim code. So this isn't necessarily new for Artistic Premium, but the concept is if I want this thread to be trimmed after the spider, I can choose to insert a trim command on the spider, and I can also have the trim command added to the hand, and that will make it trim here, and then jump over, and then it'll tie in there, and it'll trim at the end of the hand. I guess it would have anyways because it was a color change for the next hand, but the concept was you can select objects and then add the trim command by turning that on. So those are some of the, I guess, different commands that are available and are new with the Artistic Premium software. Another feature working with Artistic Premium that can be helpful is to add a guideline. Now, I can create a guideline. This is my ruler. Basically, the closer I get to my design, the more sort of detail that gets shown onto me on my rulers. But the idea is if I wanted to put a horizontal guideline, I could click on the horizontal ruler and drag down. And I could say, well, I'll have a guideline that shows me, right where the bottom of the butter or the spider is. And if I grab and drag another horizontal guideline, I could put that where the top of this hand is, and that way I could easily select this hand and then click and drag to move it, and it'll actually snap to align with that guideline once it gets close to it. So yeah, the concept of adding a guideline becomes very fundamental to creating balanced designs. One thing you can do, if you right click over top of the ruler, you can choose to add a new guideline, and here we can create not just a horizontal or a vertical one, but we could create a diagonal guideline or a circular guideline. So for example, if I choose diagonal, it puts a diagonal guideline across my workspace, and I can change the angle of it to be any angle that I want. And I could change the location of it by just dragging it. And so that's kind of how it works. Now, I could also right click and choose to add circular guideline, and now I have to actually draw the circle, and that goes onto my screen. And so you could use that to, like when we were doing clones, and you wanted to clone around a circular shape, then now you know exactly where the center of the circle is and easily put your shapes to align around the circle. So guidelines can be helpful. Now, sometimes the guidelines are no longer necessary. The ones that I clicked and dragged to bring in, I can just click and drag to take them off, and once they get back over top of the ruler, it lets them go. If you know you want to delete them, you can right click over top of the menu and say delete all guides or guideline options, which gives you each of the guidelines. So we can see here that we've got a horizontal guideline at this position, let's delete it. We've got a diagonal guideline at that position, let's delete it. We've got a circular guideline at this position, let's delete it. And when I say OK, we should be left with no more guidelines. So that's the guideline feature, and it can be very helpful when working with Artistic Premium. Another feature that's very important with Artistic Premium software is the ability to set the starting and ending point of your design. and they don't always have to be the design center. Now we can see with this design here, I added the spider first and then I added the hands later. And so the center of the workspace is where the design starts. See that? It's got a jump from the center of the workspace down to here. That looks like that's where this spider was set to begin sewing. And then it jumps over here and does this hand, and it jumps down here and it does this hand. And currently, the needle, if I zoom out, is sitting right there. So this design has a starting point of there and an ending point of here. So if you want to make any changes to the starting and ending point, you can choose the Edit drop-down menu, and it's Design Start End, and I can first of all move the design start point. I can move the design end point. I can move both the starting and ending point, and I can have my design return to the start point. So if I know that that's the center of the design, I could quickly right now say return to center, and see what it did. It came from the end of the hand back to where it began. Now if I wanted to have a different, so I'm going to choose Edit, different design. I want to move the starting and ending point of this design. I'm going to choose that, and it actually gives me a grid around all of the parts of the design. So I could easily say, well, you know, the center of all of the portions of this design is actually here. And so I'm going to make the start and the end be the center. And so that was different. Now, you're probably thinking, why wouldn't you want to have it center? Shouldn't you always have the design start in the center? But there are some applications that you may want to have a different starting and ending point of your design. I want you to imagine that I created an embroidery design and I misspelt one of the words. And so we've literally taken the jacket and picked out the word that was misspelt, and we've corrected the word in our design, and now we have to rehoop the garment, and it may be easier for us to hoop the garment directly to the place where the word starts sewing. So you can almost put your needle down and double check that it's right where it needs to be, and then when you push start, it'll start right there. And so that's the concept, that you could have a design that had a different starting and ending point. So you can say move start and end and say, well, I need it to start right here and I need it to end over here or whatever. So that's your ability to change the starting and ending points of your designs. Another feature in Artistic Premium that can be helpful is called View as Continuous Design. And the idea here is that if I choose this, it can help me to create a pattern that's meant to be a layout where it might, cover the fabric. To get started, I'm just going to remove these hand symbols so that I'm left with just the one design. Imagine we wanted to pattern this to fill our fabric. And so I'm going to turn on, under the View drop-down menu, Show as Continuous Design, and we'll also take a look at the continuous design offsets, and then we can even show sort of what it would be like if you had a multi-head embroidery machine. So we'll start with Show as Continuous Design. So it's showing me the spider repeated like it was a continuous design. And in this case, if I say View and I show the continuous design offset, this is where you get to decide, I guess, first of all, the units of measurement, inches or centimeters, and then the amount of space in between them. So they're set right now at 10 millimeters, both sides, horizontal and vertical, and then the number of copies. So, for example, if this is set to 0 vertical copies, but 1 horizontal copy, it puts 1 on either side. That's why it's, it's not just 1 copy, it puts 1 here and there, because it's continuous. And if it was 1 vertical, then it would be 1 on either side that way too. If it was 2 vertical, and I zoom this out a little bit, 2, you can see that it's created more copies. So you get to decide within your View Continuous Design Offset menu how many copies of your design that you're going to have to cover your fabric, and how much space there'll be in between them, both vertically and or horizontally. And so it's still only really one design. And so if I select my design and rotate it, it's going to rotate everything, because they're not even duplicates. They're imaginary embroidery designs. It's just showing you if you did this as a continuous design, what would it look like? And therefore you could make adjustments to the design to suit the continuous design concept. And you could turn it on and off too. So view, if you don't want show continuous design, you just simply turn that off. So a different, I guess something that's different and more, a little bit more functional. Let's just say you have a multi-head embroidery machine and you wanted to be seeing what it looked like on both heads. So maybe you're trying to, I guess, create a design that went continuously from head 1 to head 2. Now, again, under the View drop-down menu, you have Show with Head Selection. And so I'll scroll out and show that I've got a multi-head machine selected, and then showing the design rotating or over each embroidery head. Now, if I go to the View and I go to the Head Selection Settings, you can see here that I've got two choices. There's the default, which had a 56 head count, and the distance between the heads was 13.5. I created this one. I called it the 2-head. So if you had a 2-head embroidery machine that has 2 heads and a distance of 20 centimeters between the heads, and I'll just select that, and so now we see 2 spiders 20 millimeters apart. So you get to decide if you happen to have, and let's just do that one more time, View, Head Selection. Let's create a new machine. Let's just say you have a 6-head embroidery machine. And so there's 6 heads. And maybe the distance between the heads, maybe you've got a nice stretch embroidery machine, you've got 40 centimeters between the heads. Select the 6-head. Okay. And now you have, I guess, all 6 heads. I'll just have to zoom out in the right direction here. See, so I have 6 embroidery heads with 400 millimeters spacing in between. Now, once you turn that on, if you're done with it, you can hit Escape, and it'll take it back to sort of continuous, just one design mode. So yeah, that's the settings for using the continuous design mode and the sort of embroidery head selection mode. Now I'd like to take a look at the slow redraw tool. This can be very helpful in allowing you to quickly proof the way your design is going to stitch on your screen so that you can understand what you've created and make changes as needed before you go to the machine. And this is the tool here called Slow Redraw, and you'll notice it's gray at the moment. To be able to use the Slow Redraw tool, you need to first of all turn on the Show Up to Cursor option. Now, when I turn on Show Up to Cursor, currently it's at the beginning of the design and therefore nothing is shown. I can click and advance the design to be, so it went right to that point. If I click here, it'll go right to the point. Wherever I click, it'll move up to my cursor. Now, if I turn on the Slow Redraw option, it can start sewing right from there. Okay, and you can easily stop that. Okay, we can return to the beginning. You can set the speed for the slow redraw. When it's slow redrawing, you can have it change to be, right now I just have it moving the stitches, but I can simulate the movement of the frame. So say start. So it moves back and forth. It's kind of hard to watch. Stop. Change it back to move the head and say start. And so now it just moves the stitches as opposed to moving the embroidery frame. Stop. Zoom in, zoom out, get it where you want it, sort of centralize it. I can go on my keyboard and type home to get to the beginning of the design, or end to get to the end of the design. So that's the Slow Redraw tool, and the idea is we could use it to interact. So if I selected this object, so now that I want to make a change to the object now. So I have to leave this sort of Show Up to Cursor mode and go back to general selecting mode. Just select it. And so maybe we decided that the design didn't have enough underlay just with the simple edging. And by watching it, we realized that we needed to have netting plus. And then you make that change, turn on the Up to Cursor button, and watch it slow redraw again. And you can see, okay, I can see it's doing an edge run underlay. I'll just speed it up. Now it's starting to do the beginning of the netting, so it's going to do everything 90, then it's going to do everything at 0 or whatever angles those are. There are two contrasting angles that are perpendicular to the top stitching, which is going to come on top, meant to help support them. So the point is, I didn't know what kind of underlay was there until I watched it sew. I mean, it's not that I didn't know, but I wasn't paying attention to it. And this is what you can learn from using the slow redraw tool. So again, I'll just stop this. If I close it, if I turn off show up to cursor, everything goes kind of back to normal. I could select my embroidery design and do what I want with it. And anytime you want to use the slow redraw, you need to turn on the show up to cursor button, and that allows you to turn on the slow redraw tool and watch it sew. And when you're done, push stop, reset back to the beginning, and continue on with designing your design. So that's the slow redraw tool, and it can be very helpful when digitizing with Artistic Premium. Right now I'm going to show you how you can use the edit step pattern to create, I guess, new and interesting patterns of fill. So right now, even if I turn on my 3D preview, you can get an idea for what the fill would look like. If I turn that 3D preview off and turn on the show stitch marks, and maybe for this demonstration I'll even turn off all sort of existing underlay. So, I guess I need to select this and turn off the existing underlay. So it just shows us, really, when I look closely now, I can see the stitches of the design, and I can see that they fall into some sort of very determined patterns. And this pattern, it can be edited, and that will be found under the Stitches menu where it says Edit Step Pattern. So I'm just going to click on that. And right now we can see that we have a pattern that is set with 3 offsets. See? It's got one at 0, the next one at 33, the next one at 66, and then the next row after that would be back to 0 again. And so to try and, I guess, find that, just looking through here, you have to be able to follow right along the stitches. So I'll see if I can. So here's a needle point. Now move along that line. There's the next needle point. Now, the next row of stitches beyond that, the needle points are going to be offset 33% from the previous row, and then the next row after that is going to be offset 33% more. And so finally, by the time you get back to the 4th row, it'll fall under the same needle penetrations. And that's where you get these little sort of, I guess, what looks like a pattern. And so you have the ability to change this. For example, if I wanted to make 4 offsets, and I'll have one at 25, and the second one at 50, and the third one at 75. When I say OK, you'll notice on the screen how it changed the pattern and made it different, a little bit less definition to the sort of the lines that we had before. So if I turn back into that 3D preview, okay, so this is the new 4 offsets, 25, 50, 75, 100. This was the previous 3 offsets, 33, 66, and 90. And so, yeah, you'll find that there are times where you may want to have a very creative pattern, a set of offsets. And so this gives us the ability to create literally any background pattern that you want. There's an unlimited numbers. When you go to the edit step pattern, you can have, I guess, as many different choices as you want for offsets at as many different angles, and you can play with those to create any kinds you want. You can, there's some predetermined ones that you could do, like the fish, which see how it creates that pattern. If I say OK, you start to see that wiggly pattern appear in your needle points. So yeah, this is, kind of going beyond. Of course, we've looked at creating form fill where we can design, marks within our patterns. This is actually designing the organization of the pattern itself and how it repeats. So yeah, you have the ability under the Stitches menu to choose Edit Step Pattern, and this will create a new and interesting style of fill stitch. Well, we've looked at a lot of features and tools during the course of this DVD video guide, and I'd like to leave you with one more tool just to be sure that you know how to look for additional help. And so if you notice under the help drop down menu, first of all, you can open up the contents of your drawings help, but this one here called show help on, if I turn that on, it puts a question mark on top of my mouse. And now whatever I go and click on, so if I want to learn more about the commands tools, I can click here and it'll brings up the on-screen manual for the software specifically to the function or the tool that I selected, and therefore I could learn more about that. So if you're not sure how to use a tool, and it goes away, so once I've used it, it's gone. I have to turn that on again. Show help on. I'm not sure how to use the digitizing tool. And so you turn that on and it'll tell you exactly how to draw and use the tool that you've clicked on. So that can be helpful, and it's a great way to learn more. And if you want to learn more about me and additional training opportunities that I can offer you, then again, I'll just refer you back to my website, which is sunsetstitches.com, and you're welcome to contact me that way. Otherwise, I certainly hope that you enjoyed the DVD video guide that I've prepared for Artistic Premium, and I hope that you have wonderful results with your embroidery projects and lots of hours of happy sewing. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, and bye-bye.